Stephen Weatherly, welcome to Yachting USA.
Thank you very much, Rick.
What a pleasure.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. We were in sunny Amsterdam this week.
Sunny, yeah.
And those that know, right?
Yeah.
And this is a real treat to be able to come over and speak with you. You started a company in the UK called Archipelago Yachts.
Yep.
Which is kind of near and dear into my culture of yachting because you're building expedition, aluminium hull expedition yachts for the family.
Yeah, that's right.
Does it get better than that?
So, from my perspective, obviously, thank you for having me. And Archipelago Yachts, we founded that around 3 years ago now. We're building aluminium expedition yachts, as you say, and they're catamarans.
Right.
And from my perspective, I started the company because I couldn't find that boat I wanted on the market. Combine that probably with a bit of a midlife crisis, not getting any younger.
The two go together well?
Exactly, yeah. So I thought, why not start a company? So, we started the business 3 years ago, as I say. We've got our first boat up in Norway now, doing whale watching and up in the Arctic Circle, which is fantastic. Right. And, it's all good, and it's good to be here talking to you.
I tell you what, thank you very much for being here, and what a pleasure to have this conversation and learn about this new boat building. I talk about the world of boat building in the States. We've lost so much of that. So it's a breath of fresh air when you see a new builder come on the scene with a new idea, a product that has relevance in our industry today, which from all metrics I can tell, it's exactly what you've put together so far.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a difficult industry, right? It's hard to make money out of boat building, make a successful boat building company.
It's tough. It's deceptively difficult in some ways. It really is. And I've seen it and I've lived it for 40 years.
Yeah.
And we've watched in the States, the boat building industry, for luxury vessels particularly, diminish so greatly. And yet we have noticed the European markets have stayed strong. Boat building has stayed strong over here. That's really where the majority of, particularly of the quality boat building is done, and in Northern Europe. Mm-hmm. And certainly you and I were talking earlier, I used to do a lot of business when I was with nautical structures with Pendennis Shipyard. Mm-hmm. So many visits to Falmouth and many cool projects in the UK, and love heading to the south of England. So now there's another reason to go to the south of England.
Yeah, you're very welcome to
Island of Wight, no less.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of surprised me when you told me, Island of Wight. I've always thought about that as like a good place to listen to some good music. But more than the festival, you're indicating that a lot of the wind farm vessels are built there. A lot of aluminium construction happens there.
That's right, yeah. And actually, our little yard is very close to where the Isle of Wight Festival happens, so you can listen to music whilst you're building the boats.
That's a win.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided to set up on the Isle of Wight partly because our vessel and our company has very much links with the commercial boat building industry. So our naval architects are mostly focused, or at least they grew up focusing on the offshore wind industry.
Right.
And a lot of the offshore wind industry is obviously aluminium catamarans. A lot of that grew up in the Isle of Wight for the UK.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of aluminium shipbuilding expertise on the Isle of Wight, and hence we decided to set up our base there to use some of those expertise, that great heritage of aluminium yacht building.
Yep.
And it's a good place to build boats.
And what about the infrastructure support, the trades? Obviously you have Plymouth, you have Falmouth, there's a lot of boat building there that's nearby. Does it also exist on the island?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's probably 3 or 4 big aluminium builders on the Isle of Wight. So obviously all of the expertise around aluminium construction and fit out and engineering, it's all there. Right. And so, it's really easy to access the talent and the equipment that you need.
Awesome. So then the next question begs, why aluminium instead of GRP or composite or some of the other materials you see in the smaller, more production-built boats?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me, there's a couple of reasons, really. One, as a startup, when we launched our first boat, I guess I knew we weren't going to get everything right. We were going to have customers that come to us and say, could you make this a bit bigger? Could you make this a bit smaller? And that's obviously very easy with aluminium. Right. Because you can just change things.
There's nothing molded.
Exactly.
Right.
The second one was obviously, again, as a startup, you don't need to invest in the molds that you do for GRP. And the third thing is actually around sustainability, because obviously aluminium, from my perspective, it's a sustainable material. GRP boats typically end up in landfill. There's no really good way of recycling them at the moment. Aluminium, you can either make from recycled aluminium, or at least if the boat comes to the end of its life, you can recycle the aluminium. And that sustainability angle is pretty important to us at Archipelago as well.
Some of those larger GRP boats make for some really good wreck diving.
Yeah,
Yeah, all of that makes perfect sense to me. It really does. And you're right about the sustainability and the good use of materials with aluminum. It's got good thermal properties as well. While we're talking about material construction, and you're mentioning you've got boats up to the Arctic Circle right now, the first one anyway.
Yep.
Does there come a point in time where you say, maybe I need to go to steel hull for ice class or anything along those lines?
Not for us. So I think, from my perspective, we're not really targeting that sort of deep ice work where you'd need steel and you'd need ice class. All of our boats have got thickened shell plate, aluminium shell plate. They're extremely robust, they're extremely tough. But equally with, performance catamaran, which they are, we need to be focused as well on the ability to go a bit quicker as well as slowly.
Right.
Because that's one of our selling points, really.
Yeah.
So
it's not an 8-knot boat necessarily.
No, it's so most of our boats are, top speed would be 25 to 30.
All right, that's moving along.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of the, I guess, our philosophies. I'm a big fan of big heavy displacement trawler style boats, right? I've always grown up loving them, sort of really wanting one, but I've got a young family. If I took them out in the Solent at 7 knots, they'd all kill each other by the time we get home, just to go out to the beach or something.
It's time to get back to the dock. Let's go.
Exactly. So when we started Archipelago, one of my key philosophies, well, let's have the capability of one of those vessels in terms of the ability to go offshore, long range, very stable, very high quality. But actually then combine that with a platform that if you want to go out for a day to the beach, you can get there at 20 knots, 25 knots, and then you can come back and, you have kids that still like each other by the time you get home.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's the idea. That's important.
Yeah.
Having raised 3 of my own, totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And of course, the catamaran platform has so much utility to it. So, certainly there's a passion for fishing. That's easy enough for diving. You've got the ability for a stable platform for getting in and out of the water and setting yourself on site. So talk about some of the technologies you put into the operation of the boat, both in propulsion and in basic navigation control.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure with the options that are available to you today, you have some opportunities to do some interesting things.
Yeah, and I guess it's pretty important to me, contentious as it may be. I think boats over the last 20, 30 years, from my perspective, have actually had a tendency to become too complicated, too complex.
Yeah.
And right at the heart of what we do is trying to strip that back and remember that you're on, a relatively complex vessel in a hostile environment. You've got to be able to get to your systems. Things are going to go wrong. It's inevitable.
That's true.
And it generally frightens me how many people can jump on a boat which is hugely complex. They don't know anything about the systems. They don't know anything about how it's put together, and they're out there in a very hostile environment, and things can go wrong, and it's dangerous.
It can be. Yeah.
So we generally try and get back, to that philosophy of simplicity, and how do we make that boat really simple? Let's not integrate too many things together and create single points of failure on the boat. Let's try and make everything accessible, easy to service, and just get back to that
high level reliability.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and to be clear, from our previous conversation before this interview, your mindset is dominantly an owner-operated vessel.
Correct.
Your thought process here is, the family's boat, you'll take it out with the family. You're not going to necessarily have an engineer on board to sort out the systems. This is something that you yourself are going to have to know the boat well enough that, whether it's a navigation issue or an anchoring issue or a glitch with a generator engine, you know how to deal with it, or you know what the troubleshoot looks like.
That's right. Yeah. And I think it's, again, one of the benefits of a catamaran platform, from my perspective, is no need for stabilizers, no need for gyros. You get that inherent stability from the hull. So that, again, simplifies your need for equipment on board.
It gives you more space too.
Exactly. Yeah. So coming back to, I guess, your question earlier about, what technology we put on board, we offer, a range of technologies from standard diesel installation, diesel electric hybrid. We're just about to build our first all-electric vessel, which is quite interesting. And then we're always focused on, the next generation of fueling and the next generation of powering. So we're doing, at the moment, an Innovate UK funded piece of work looking at methanol fueling on board as well. So we can offer a whole raft of fueling. Again, back to that aluminium thing, we can change things quite easily. We can adapt, we can evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you brought up the electric piece of it. This past year, I've had the privilege of sea trialing on 3 different all-electric boats.
Okay.
Now, these were smaller boats. These were 7 to 10, 12-meter boats. But it was remarkable, the power curve, the way they operated, the inherent braking system that you have when you've got your drive shaft connected to an electric motor rather than a internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
And the gearbox, the simplicity that comes with all electric, there's almost nothing to work or fix. And the fact that, these boats were providing 5, 8, 10 hours of operating time range on their batteries before recharge, which when you think about how most boats are operated, is plenty of range, plenty of operational capabilities. So I would think all electric would certainly be a viable approach for some of your builds.
Yeah, and we're very, I guess, honest with our buyers about the capability of it, right? So we shouldn't kid ourselves that batteries are anywhere near as sort of energy dense as diesel, for example.
No.
Diesel's a bit of a wonder fuel apart from the fact that it pollutes. And so, range is limited. Speed is okay, but as you say, if someone is going out for a couple of hours, maybe anchoring up, having a bit of fun with their family, recharging the batteries with some good solar on board, and then going back to port, that works really well. But I think we just have to be very honest with our buyers and not kid them, not greenwash stuff.
Greenwashing is a good adjective to use there because, certainly if you're going to be advocating, you're going to take the boat away from the dock in Southampton and head over to the fjords of Norway. There's probably some better choices for propulsion technology.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and there are obviously things you can do with all electric boats. Diesel range extension. We're looking at methanol range extension. There's things that you can do to obviously help it.
Right.
But
the hybrid technology comes into play.
But fundamentally, it's batteries are 40, 50 times less energy dense than diesel, right? So it's going to be potentially heavier, and you're not going to get the range.
That's right. And of course, unless you design the boat inefficiently and you have to figure out how to put more ballast in the boat. And the batteries become helpful that way. But
could be advantageous.
But no, that's good stuff because, that's conversation keeps going up and up. And there's a balancing point. I think, there's a point where your desire to be, fully zero emission and fully, I hate to use the word green, it's overused, is counterproductive to the operational needs that the boat really wants to deliver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's why you're not seeing all electric transatlantic, trans-Pacific vessels yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just not. It just doesn't. The two don't work together.
Right.
Really.
Right.
And I think I think it's quite interesting to, I guess, talk about the industry, especially the leisure yacht industry, in terms of what does it do to decarbonise, right? Because there's a whole bunch of competing fuels of the future and decarbonisation strategies. And I think the whole industry doesn't quite know where to go. There's a lot of different ideas. We've got some ideas about where we think it should go, but it's a really complex space and nothing's quite as good as diesel. That's the problem.
Well, that is the problem. And I think the more you go down these rabbit holes, the more you realize that the solution's probably in hybrid and multiple technologies that work congruently with each other because diesel is simply an energy dense, efficient fuel source and it's abundant.
Yeah.
And, there are technologies to help clean up the emissions and the use of diesel. And at some point in time, I think you get to a point where this is probably as good as it's going to get and we're as efficient as we need to be.
Yeah. And one of the things that we try to focus on, and I think there's a lot of naval architecture work goes into it, is you say you sort of reach the limit of what you can do with the propulsion, and then you also have to focus on, well, what can we do with the boat?
Hull design.
Exactly, yeah. Good hull design, efficient hull design, and a hull design which is fit for the purpose of that vessel. And that's really important as well. And, there's lots of people, for example, who approach me about things like foiling technologies and would we put foiling technologies on the boat? And my answer is, yeah, obviously we can do that, but Do you want to, for example, reduce your efficiency at low speed because you've got foils that are in the water, and or do you want the complexity of being able to remove the foils from the water? So no, there's always a balance.
I just did a sea trial at the Fort Lauderdale show a few weeks ago on a foiling boat.
Yeah.
And it was remarkable to come out of the water and fly the boat. And all of a sudden, the motion caused by other boats' wakes and waves diminishes, doesn't completely go away, but it's 90% reduced. Yeah. And the noise was all electric boat too, electric foiling boat.
Nice.
And so it was remarkable, and realizing this is like just the beginning stages of that, you realize you're at the genesis of some new technology. It wouldn't surprise me to have a conversation with you 5 years from now, and you're saying, Rick, you should see this catamaran we're building. It flies above the waves on 4 foils, and it's just so efficient and so cool. Yeah. I think there is a marriage of technology coming our way.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, with my naval architects in the UK, a company called Chartwell Marine, they've been doing a lot of work, again, sort of Innovate UK funded work, looking at electric foiling technology and how that can be applied to the commercial world as well as the leisure world. And I think it is a really interesting area to explore. But a bit like the battery conversation, it's about, let's get the use case right.
That's right.
For that vessel.
That's right.
And make sure you're not doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, right. There may not be a need to take a expedition yacht distant destinations on foils.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And so, everything has its purpose. But it is interesting when you talk about hull design. The 800-pound gorilla in the room when I think about catamarans, and the catamarans I've been on, some are designed very well with the way the hulls are designed so that at anchor and while you're sleeping, they're reasonably quiet hulls. But sometimes you get these harmonics that happen when waves are moving through the 2 hulls. And do you do anything to mitigate the noise that's created by the marriage of the 2 hulls?
Yeah, we haven't. It's interesting you say that. We haven't done a lot of work on, I guess, noise at anchor, and we haven't noticed it to be an issue. Okay. Predominantly, we start out from, I guess, focused on a number of things. One is performance of the vessel when underway, both from an efficiency perspective and a comfort perspective. Yeah. For example, if you have the hulls too wide apart, the vessel tends to be too stiff and it's got quite jarring motions. So you'll notice with our boats, the hulls are not too far apart, and we want the boat almost, when it's going through the water, to behave more like a monohull.
Okay, yeah.
But with that inherent stability.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but with the inherent stability when you're at anchor, but when you're going through the water, we want it to almost behave more like a monohull because it's slightly softer motion and it tends to create less seasickness. And the naval architects obviously have to do a lot of work with their commercial vessels, focusing on that. Keeping the crew, keeping the technicians feeling good when they're out at sea. And so that filters down to our boats, which is fantastic.
Which is, for recreational marine, that's the money shot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important.
If you've got a more comfortable boat, the wife's going to want to buy it. No question about it. Yeah. But, it's always been in my boating experience. You keep her happy and you got happy boating coming your way. The other thing that's remarkable on catamaran designs, you notice it normally when you step on deck and you're in the main salon spaces, is you've got that beam width to work with. Yeah, you can do a lot on the interior when you've got so much interior space.
Yeah, it's nice. And we obviously put a lot of effort and attention into that open salon. When you walk into the boat, you've got all that space. You can do a lot with it, with the galley and the seating area and the helm station, and people tend to compliment us quite a lot. And you walk in, there's a lot of glass around you. It's very open. You can see the sea. You can see the horizon. It's very nice. And you get that extra space. On a 47-foot boat, you've got the equivalent space of maybe a 60, 65-foot.
Yeah, easily. Yeah. Right. That's what that extra hull kind of does for you. As a Northern European built boat, what's it look like on your exterior spaces? I mean, certainly you want to be enclosed in some of the cooler climates, but once you get into warmer weather, you have larger exterior entertainment spaces and upper decks and... Yeah. So we can offer, again, coming back to the aluminium point, we offer fly bridges on all of our models above 47 foot. So we don't tend to offer it on our smallest one, which is the 40, because I tend to think it starts to look a bit ugly. Stacking too high?
Yeah, well, as boats shrink, humans don't tend to shrink. You've sort of got to keep the height, which I think doesn't look right. But yeah, we try and keep things simple. We've got a nice big aft deck nice safe aft deck with good railings around it, and we tend to keep it pretty open and let the customer bring their own furniture on board, so that when the sun's in the right place, you can move your chair. You don't have to be fixed in a certain position.
I've seen more and more in naval architecture, more and more boat designs moving that way to let the furniture be the owner's kind of creative choices instead of all the built-ins that you've got to kind of accept and deal with. However, that particular designer thought you wanted it.
Yeah, that's right. And we obviously, being an offshore explorer vessel, we provide good tie downs for any furniture that they want to bring on board, because that's, I guess, the downside of not having built-in furniture is you've got to then strap it down, lash it down, or store it away. So we've got plenty of storage space to put foldable things, etc. So we've got a big aft deck. Up at the foredeck, we obviously keep it nice and safe. We don't tend to assume people are going to be up there, whilst you're on passage. And then the flybridge up on the roof, and then a good quantity of high quality solar is on all of our boats as well.
There you go, because you have that sun out there. Even when it's not brightly shining, you still pick up solar energy too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're just using exterior surfaces to collect that energy then.
That's right, yeah. And the vessel that we're going to be building, the all-electric Archipelago 40, which is the one that our customer wants, that's going to have a lot of solar on, most of, not the aft deck, but most of the open spaces to obviously collect as much as is possible. It's never really going to propel the boat along, but it's going to help with all the house loads.
I was just going to say, the hotel load gets supported by that type of thing for sure.
Exactly. And when you're at anchor, obviously you're recharging the batteries, and it's free energy. So.
And you're not using the generator necessarily, so that quiets the boat down and makes it a little more noise friendly as well as eco friendly.
That's right. Yeah, I'm really excited about that boat because it should be a really quiet, fantastic platform to be. So the owner's taking it out to the Mediterranean. It's going to be a fantastic platform, I think.
Fantastic. Will you agree to bring it into the cons show?
I hope so. We've talked about it. Hopefully. Yeah,
it'd be nice to see the boat and actually see it, on the docks, get that visual. So we've been talking about your 40, 47. You were telling me earlier that you've got plans to build up to 80?
Yeah, so we've got our first 80-footer is in build.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's in build in the Far East, in Vietnam.
Okay.
So it's customer choice to put it out there to build in Vietnam. On the Isle of Wight, we don't have the facilities to build at that size.
Right.
So we partner with a number of yards to build our larger vessels. Yeah. And so he's building that boat out in Vietnam. It's fantastic. That platform is, I think, I might say this, but I think it's probably the most versatile 24-metre boat out there.
Right.
So he can land a helicopter on the roof, and not just a small one, it's a big one. He can land a 4-ton helicopter on the roof.
That's real.
We can carry 16 tonnes of payload as well as fuel, and the boat can do up to 30 knots, and it's got a diesel-electric hybrid and 10 kilowatts of solar. Yeah.
Wow.
Two cranes, front and back, can carry a 20-foot container on the back as well. So it's a massive Swiss Army knife of a boat.
It's an expedition vessel, a proper one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he can operate that himself. It's sub 24 metre. He can drive that himself.
Yeah. I mean, and again, in the catamaran, 80-foot catamaran is equivalent of probably a 140-foot monohull.
Yeah, it's a huge platform.
That's beautiful. More likely a crew serve boat, or could it still be owner operated?
Yeah, I mean, he will have a crew. I think what we like to say to our owners who want to buy those platforms, again, we always focus on the owner operated vessel. Typically you will have a crew on a boat like that, but it allows you to operate the boat yourself as well if you want to. We've also got another buyer who's buying an 80 who will operate it on his own because it's a liverboard for him. So he'll be living on it on the east coast of the US on his own.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and so that's a nice thing about the fact that we're sub 24 metres. Anyone can operate those vessels, obviously within reason. You've got to know what you're doing.
Well, yeah, but again, that size boat in a catamaran hull design, not horribly difficult.
No. And there's so many, relatively basic technologies out there now, things like DockMate, which will allow you to, come alongside with a joystick, good bow thrusters, good stern thrusters, especially diesel electric hybrid where you've got the torque from those electric motors and things.
So it's brilliant.
It's actually very easy to maneuver these things.
I would predict that type of boat's going to become pretty popular for you.
I hope so.
Yeah, I bet you do. No, but really, when you think about the utility built into that, and you look at the boating market, and it is in that larger size, what I say over 30, 35 meter, where we're seeing market growth.
Yeah.
Sub 30 meter, it's still highly competitive, and it's not as dynamic as it is. And while you're 24 meter in LOA, you're really more equivalent in the specification to a 35 meter, 40 meter boat.
That's right.
So I think you're putting yourself in a sweet spot.
Hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah.
And I would love to be able to see that boat that's going to come to the eastern seaboard of the United States and, see what one of these archipelagos really do and what they really look like.
Yeah, so we've got to I'm targeting in probably 2 years' time, we'll have one in Fort Lauderdale and obviously one in Cannes. Hopefully, that's the idea.
Well, those are the two venues where you can get the ultimate exposure and, really scale your business.
Yeah. But I guess coming back to the US, I'd be interested to, from our perspective, obviously the yachting industry at the moment is, especially in the lower size range, it's a tough industry, right? And especially affected by the US and, a bit of a turn down in the amount of buying power in the US and things. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on that.
Well, it is. As a US yacht guy, I can tell you that the boats in the, say the, 25 to 65 foot range are soft. Yet I was up at the Viking factory, and you wouldn't know it there. You saw all their production lines full with a wait list and just amazing throughput going on up there. And they're in that space with the Valhalla line of the open boats and then the Sportfish boats. So I think when you build a really high quality product like Viking does, you can be a successful boat builder in the United States and have a good order book. But that's taken time and reputation to get there. But then when you look at the market, like I said, above, say, 30, 35 meters, 115, 120 foot, Hargrave's a good example of that. It's also built in Taiwan, but it's a U.S. company with a strong reputation, and they stay very busy. And there's other examples of that as well. So that's why I would say that your 80 would probably do very well in the States because it provides a platform that I think people find attractive. The whole idea of expedition style yacht, the family go anywhere within reason, stable, safe platform is appealing. I think you're setting yourself up for success for that.
Good.
Yeah. Now, and I would predict that you'd probably ultimately find the larger boat probably going to sell better than the smaller boat just because of I was walking the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show just a couple of weeks ago, and the number of boats that are up from China and Brazil and Poland, there's a lot. So it's in that size range, in that 40, 45, 50 foot range. It's a lot of competition. But once you get into that 80 plus, the competition and the number of choices is much smaller. That's a nice niche.
Yeah, well, good.
Yeah, for sure. So, Stephen, I'm looking forward to, getting more information, and, we're going to run a little bit of what we call B-roll in this interview so people that are watching this interview can see your boats.
That's cool.
And I really am thrilled that we've had the opportunity to come together in person here at the Mets. I should call out the Mets trade because they have been very generous to provide us the studio facility and the ability to do these interviews during the Mets. This is a wonderful place to come together in this industry to not only meet people like you and see what's happening in boat building, but also walking the halls out here. Look at all the options, all the product, all the resources that are available to boat builders to put together some amazing builds.
Yeah, it's a great show. I find it a fascinating show when you just walk around and you see, from obviously the names that everyone knows are out there, and then all these small.
It's a lot of new names.
And really helpful people, really passionate about the industry, there to help you as a builder or a buyer. And it's great. From my perspective, I've been in the industry now for 5 years or so, and it's a great industry to be in, and just in terms of the passion and the help that people want to give each other.
Thank you for saying that, because I've been in the industry a little bit longer, and that is the thing that I have always pointed to. This is a love industry. People are, by and large, in this. Everybody's in business. They want to make money. They need to make money to be viable. But they're here because they love it.
Yeah.
They found something they can be passionate about. You look at the attention to detail and quality that goes into almost everything you see. Yeah, passion. There's all of that. And so when you bring dozens and dozens of suppliers that are passionate about what they do, to builders who are passionate about what they do, that really delivers a wonderful product.
Yeah.
And a good experience.
Yeah. And as you say, amazing to see some of the new companies out there, the new names, and people still starting businesses, which is great. It's relatively difficult economic times and all the rest of it, but there are people still out there trying new things.
The entrepreneur willing to take that risk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's great. It's great to see.
Yeah, it is. And Stephen, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming and joining Yachting USA.
No problem.
And
it's been fun.
I wish you only success.
Thank you very much.
Fair seas.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to hearing how things go as we stay in touch in the future.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for having me, Rick.
All right, my pleasure.
Okay.
And until the next time, I'm out of here.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.